kind of like a follow-up on it though, like what does Flutter do that's like useful for the developer? You know, like how does it make the developer's life easier, or how does it make like the client's life easier?
I think there's a number of topics that I like to say that, yes, this is what I needed. One of the things is compile times. In Android, if even in iOS, both Android and iOS, if you code native code, once you reach a point when your app is more than a year working on stuff, when you hit the first run, or even not even the first run, in the consecutive runs, you can wait. In my everyday job, I need to wait literally 10 minutes. 10 minutes every time that I hit play. You can imagine that if I hit that button 6 times in a day, I lose 1 hour of my day only running the code and compiling the code. So why? So Flutter has this philosophy that is called hot reload, because it uses 2 different architectures. You have just in time and you got ahead of time. Native code uses ahead of time. It compiles all your code. It runs really good, but it takes time to compile that code. So with just in time, you can inject code into your device or even emulators. So you only the changes that you did, poof, there you go, is injecting the code and you see the changes in real time. I think it takes like maybe 150 milliseconds to you see the difference. So you don't need like Android has their own XML UI. So you don't need the Neve and the storyboards from iOS to make your UI. You're using your device as your UI kind of framework, because it goes so fast that what would you need is something, you take a lot of time to convert all those XMLs into Java classes and then push it into the phone. This one is like, okay, this is code. You modify the code, you see real time. You change colors, it works. You change lists, it works. So you save a lot of time. So if you save a lot of time there, now you save a lot of time doing one app for all devices. So Android, iOS, now it's web and desktop. So if you only code once and all the stuff, you're gaining so much time that in that time that you gain, you get more, you can play around a little bit more. Like you can be a little bit more challenged even in the UI stuff. Because again, how in the hell I'm going to spend 15 minutes to change the shape of a button in Android, which in those 15 minutes, I could change it 20 times maybe on Flutter, and I can pick from those 20 different variants, which one is the one that I like. And in Android, I can only test one. So I think all those ingredients makes the magic with Flutter in a really, really powerful way, because you don't have those bridges as Cordova, React Native, React, and all those languages, and pretty much in JavaScript, most of them. You lose a lot of the power in all those languages, interpreting all the code, doing this hybrid kind of thing, compiling and try to understand JavaScript, put it into native code and then run it. This one is like, it's like doing Unity for video games, or something like that. Imagine like Unity for games, but for apps. So you got like what is called like the surface is like a window. Android doesn't, or iOS doesn't know what's going on in this window, but Flutter knows. So they write directly to the screen, if you want to call it. They open the window and it's like, do whatever you want. And what does Flutter? Do apps.
It's in the end, as I understand it, right, it's going directly to, C or C++, right? You're skipping the Java layer or the Swift layer. So in the end, you're going to have as much or even more, if they could, performance than the actual Android.
Because even on Java, you have this limitation of the Java virtual machine. So even in Android that compiles the code in C and C++, the whole process of installing and convert the code in Java to interpret it in C and C++ at the beginning, and then having still the limitations of the heap size and everything from Java, you still have those kind of limitations. In Dart, you don't have it because you have the full C and C++ pipeline, and you got the canvas, you can draw in the canvas. So you technically don't have a heap size, or maybe it's way higher, or the space reserved into the RAM for the device is way higher than you do in Java. So you don't have those out of memories that you in the past have a lot with Android. If you do like a lot of UI in Android, you hit into the out of memory and you need to scale things down, use vectors or something that is really optimized for don't just like explode into your device and just like, boom, I got a crash. So Flutter it's going to maybe consume a little bit more RAM if you don't do the right things. Maybe it's going to consume more battery, but it's going to allow you to have amazing UIs and stuff, and it's fluid.
Builds you better UIs, saves you time,
Yes.
saves you money. It's all of them.
That's why people are so passionate when they talk about Flutter, because being so many years on Android and iOS, like, yes, I lose so many hours with this. Why make it so difficult when it was so easy?
Totally.
But until you see
you got
it,
more freedom, but you also got more responsibility, right? Because you got to make sure that you're being efficient.
Yeah,
like you said.
because here's the thing. Flutter gives you a lot of freedom. You can do a mess and it's still going to work.
Mm-hmm.
But your app is not going to be really good. It's going to work, but it's not going to be really good. So you need that extra careful of the things that you do, because maybe you are like overdrawing your like animation 1,000 more times that you should and you shouldn't, and it's going to work. It's going to drain your battery, but it's not the performance. So you really need to be challenged.
Alrighty. So you gave us a lot of insight into Flutter. Could you talk maybe a little bit about Dart, because Flutter is like the framework and Dart is the actual programming language. So
yes. So Dart started as an internal project for Google. They wanted to replace JavaScript. So they created their own language in order to replace JavaScript. I think in the middle of the road, they noticed how good it was, not just for like replacing JavaScript, but actually doing apps. That was like a mistake or a slippery slope that they find it, like a really good one, actually.
Yeah.
A really good mistake that they find in the middle of the process. Like, hey, this is actually really good. It compiles on ARM, it compiles on x86 and all this stuff. It's like, we can do more than competing with the web, which the web was already getting so much traction, which is like, you really need to track a lot of stuff. But the mobile development
TypeScript was there already, right?
Yeah.
So it was complicated to actually compete in that sense.
In the web, you already have your React, your Vue.js, you already have all this Angular, all these languages and stuff who has been for so many years. Even Angular is from Google itself. So competing themselves with themselves was not the smart maybe decision. That's what I believe. Even a lot of people don't know about the AdWords from Google service, the one you do all your advertising. That's writing on Flutter for the longest years.
So you gave us a lot of insight into Flutter. Could you talk maybe a little bit about Dart, because Flutter is like the framework and Dart is the actual programming language. So
yes. So Dart started as an internal project for Google. They wanted to replace JavaScript. So they created their own language in order to replace JavaScript. I think in the middle of the road, they noticed how good it was, not just for like replacing JavaScript, but actually doing apps. That was like a mistake or a slippery slope that they find it, like a really good one, actually.
Yeah.
A really good mistake that they find in the middle of the process. Like, hey, this is actually really good. It compiles on ARM, it compiles on x86 and all this stuff. It's like, we can do more than competing with the web, which the web was already getting so much traction, which is like, you really need to track a lot of stuff. But the mobile development
TypeScript was there already, right?
Yeah.
So it was complicated to actually compete in that sense.
In the web, you already have your React, your Vue.js, you already have all this Angular, all these languages and stuff who has been for so many years. Even Angular is from Google itself. So competing themselves with themselves was not the smart maybe decision. That's what I believe. Even a lot of people don't know about the AdWords from Google service, the one you do all your advertising. That's writing on Flutter for the longest years. But the Flutter evolution in the past 2 years has been like ridiculous. They went through, I think it was 2019. The thing was, I think it was 2018. React was number 3 in the top 10 most contribution projects in the entire planet. And the year later, Flutter wasn't not even in the list. And the year later, Flutter took the 2nd position and React Native took the 4th position. So out of nowhere, boom, number 2. I think it was like below Visual Studio Code, which is huge.
I just wanted to ask, from what you mentioned, it's actually like Unity. We're not using the components that Android or iOS have. We're just like imitating if we are, or even creating our own. Yeah. So how does a new version on these systems affect our development here? Should we be worried about any type of adaptability to the new things that come up, or is Flutter fast enough?
I think that one of the questions that a lot of people ask me, because maybe they don't want to grab Flutter, is like, oh, but they're using the native UIs. And I tell them, no, I'm not going to use it because they don't have the native UIs. And then I tell them, wait, the native UI is just pixels and colors. It's like saying, this drawing is not being done by this artist. But you say, yeah, but I copy every single little detail and points and everything. You cannot see any difference. Why is it different? Because someone else, like the original person, did it. So
they don't trust it, right?
It's kind of just like a stigma that people have, it's just in their heads,
But so if you copy the pixels, if you copy how long the animation and the curve that it has the animation, if you copy every single little detail just the same, why is an issue? It's not an issue. And if
not only that, you have a canvas where you can play around. Flutter is known for all the animations and all the performance because you have way more flexibility, right?
And here's the thing. If Android was optimized in the UI, I can give you the right to say, okay, you're right. Android UI is not optimized at all. Your view, your base class view, it's long. It has a lot of things that you don't need. And in Flutter, you have so many widgets because the widgets only know what they should know. Like if you want opacity, you have an opacity widget, which is going to give you opacity. So that class is tiny. So if you want to do that on Android, the image view, like the recycle, all those have the opacity because it comes from the base class, which is the view. So imagine putting so many things on the view that becomes this giant monster. So every single view that you do is already a monster, but not on Flutter because every single view knows exactly what they need. They don't need extra because you already have another widget for do that one. But yeah, you need to learn a lot more widgets that you're supposed to know in Android. In Android, maybe you have less views to handle, which in Flutter to do the same, maybe you have 5 to 6 or 7 widgets to do the same, but they're optimal. They're super optimal because they only know what they do.
Yeah, so maybe just tell us a little bit about like where Flutter is heading in, like any new features that you expect to come out soon, the direction you expect it to go.
I can give more like the directions that I need to go, which is funny enough. Like people say it's like, oh, I'm waiting for the next Flutter event to know what is going to be the new stuff. You can go to GitHub and you can check what the new stuff are going to be because the master channel, it's like the newest stuff. And the ones that go to a stable, it maybe takes 2 to 3 months to reach the stable level. So you already know in 3 months in advance what's going to go. So saying like, oh, what's the new in Flutter? You can check daily what's new in Flutter, which is amazing. It's like, okay, you can check PRs and which PRs are merged and you can see what's coming on Flutter, which is amazing. It's like all the time it's Christmas, I guess.
So what are you excited about? Like what's coming?
I think this thing of working everywhere. I mean, I saw someone compiling the code in Flutter on an Xbox, and I was like, "What? You're telling me that I can code apps on an Xbox, and I can actually do it?" I think that's the thing that is like, whoa.
But what about PS5? Like, is it compatible with the new ones?
No, I don't think. The thing about the Xbox is because they use the same architecture as they do on Windows. Like they have these universal apps. So actually Xbox is running a customized version of Windows 10. So because they already did all the job to work on Windows 10, they got Xbox for granted. It's like,
that's awesome.
There you go. It's
like, hey, it works.
Yeah, it works. Like, there you go. A new platform. We didn't know it, which is awesome. But if not, someone can develop for a new architecture and say, okay, now Flutter works in this new architecture. Why? Because it's open source. If someone knows about that architecture, they can actually build the compilers for that architecture. And that's not something that you can say for every single framework because they normally are closed source. And if they don't develop that one, they're never going to do it. Because in terms of marketing, it's like, well, we're going to do that. It's like, they're not going to give you any money. But if
Correct.
if you want to do it for the lulz, you can do it and have a new platform just because why not?
And what about there's like rumors, well, I don't know if they're rumors or just future plans about Google Android, and I think it's Project Fuchsia called, where they say they're going to move Flutter in and it's going to replace. Is that completely viable?
I think that will be again, I have a lot of NDAs with Google, but I have no idea with that. That doesn't even reach my level of NDAs.
So either way, we wouldn't know, right?
I have no idea what they're doing.
That's what the NDA says to say.
I guess it will depend, because I mean, it was a smart move to switch from Java to Kotlin because you avoid all the legal issues with using Java. So that makes sense. And Android Studio is based on IntelliJ, which is based on a Java virtual machine. And if JetBrains created Kotlin. So if you use Kotlin and you're tied with them because you created Android Studio out of them, it makes sense. So that legal marketing business makes sense. So I don't see them like throwing billions to the trash to try something new and see if that something new actually works. I think if
they would
that
probably
happens,
look for a transition,
years.
right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, you can do that if you're Apple, like changing Intel to ARM in one day, like boom, we're ARM. It's like, what you just did? You just changed your whole and people even say, oh yeah, I have to work more. And they're happy. They're like, only Apple can do that. And people be happy. So if you say someone's like, okay, you need to learn a new OS with a new architecture, a new language, and changing all the stuff. Oh, remember those 10 years of Android? Yeah, that doesn't work. You need to start all over again. I don't think it will be smart because you will lose a lot of senior developers all like out of the blue. Do a transition, do a small stuff, like small apps on Flutter, show them, make them, those people be now their juniors, semi-senior, and seniors by the time that you release those platforms. And then you got all your senior developers ready to be on the same level you're doing on Android. That will be really smart because you have the money and you have the time to do that. But I think it's going to take years. So don't be scared if you're an Android developer. You're not going to be jobless in 2 years. That's not going to happen. Maybe it's going to happen in, I don't know, 10 years, 5 years, 6 years. Who knows? Like,
start learning Flutter just in case.
Yeah, right? just start. Yeah. Just keep an eye on it. Just try a little bit. You're going to enjoy it.
With that said, and everything that you do, I'm going to give you, I think, the most difficult one in the whole interview.
This is our last question.
Playing like I'm 5, in a short phrase, what do you do?
Very short phrase.
The things that make me happy. Boom. There you go.
Okay,
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Really good.
Like,
I will say you were super happy and excited talking about every concept today. So I would agree with that. I like to see that passion.
If
you go to sleep tired and happy, you're doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a good conclusion, man.
Mariano, we're out of time. So that's a wrap, and it was a pleasure having you on Sngular Merge. This was a great session that we had today. Thank you so much, man.
Really good. Learned a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
okay.
see you later.
Thank you so much, everyone.